DW Africa Link.
When Zambia's constitutional court barred former President Edgar Lungu from contesting the 2026 election, it sent a strong message about constitutional limits and the rule of law. The decision has sparked debates. Is this a bold stand for justice or a reflection of deeper political dynamics? How independent is Zambia's judiciary in a region where political pressures often challenge justice? Let's explore what this means for Zambia's democracy and the role of an independent justice system. Stay tuned. My name is Josey Mahachi. Welcome to Africa Link, the podcast that connects you to the stories that matter from Africa.
Africa Link, every weekday here on DW.
This week, Zambia's Constitutional Court ruled that Edgar Lungu cannot run for a third term in 2026, overturning earlier suggestions of his eligibility. The Constitution limits presidents to 2 5-year terms, and the court's decision followed a petition challenging Lungu's bid. In a continent where judicial independence is often questioned, the ruling raises key questions about constitutionalism and unseen influences. Is this a genuine stand for constitutionalism, or does it reflect deeper unseen influences? To discuss this, we are joined by DW correspondent in Lusaka, Glory Mushinge, and Anthony Mukwita, a political analyst, author, and former Zambian ambassador to Germany. Thank you so much for joining us here on DW Africa Link, a podcast. Today we are talking about Zambia's Constitutional Court that has just issued a ruling that prohibits former President Edgar Lungu from running for office in the 2026 election. And Mr. Mukwita, we just want to understand from you, as someone who's in the country, how did the nation react to this news that the former President Edgar Lungu cannot?
President Edgar Lungu, the 60th president of Zambia, sought re-election on what was known as his first full term of office in September of 2016, which ended in August 2021. Before that, he was sworn in to complete the last 20 months of the presidency of his predecessor, the late Michael Sata, who died in 2014 on October 28 after a debilitating heart attack. And from there on, the horse had sort of bolted out of the barn. The opposition contended that, regardless of popular belief, that the last 20 months, President Edgar Lungu served as president after beating the current president, His Excellency Hakainde Hichilema, in a poll in 2014, was but just the continuation and the finishing last leg of the president. So when President Edgar Lungu lost his re-election bid in 2021 August and conceded defeat, he temporarily hung up his political boots and he says, I am not running into politics again. But on the 28th of October last year, he decided to return to multi-party politics. And that's when we got into this roller coaster of court petitions. A private citizen came up and took legal action to the highest court in Zambia, called the Constitutional Court, maintaining that President Edgar Lungu had already done 2 full terms and should not be allowed to run again in the polls set for August 2026. This matter, you may want to know, has been settled in the Constitution Court of Zambia by law. 4 times the matter on whether Edgar Lungu, the 60th president of Zambia, was eligible to run or seek re-election in the next pause has been settled 4 times in Zambia. One by a university professor called Sishua, who plies his trade in South Africa at Stellenbosch University. Another time by 2 NGOs called the Legal Resource Foundation and Chapter 1 Foundation. Another time by a political leader called Reverend Danny Pule. And another time by another private citizen called Bampi Kapalasa. In all the 4 instances, the Constitution Court maintained or returned with a verdict that Edgar Lungu did qualify to run. So what we saw thereafter, if I may indulge, after that, his predecessor, the current president, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, a very well-respected businessman and economist, was seen to have taken some sort of dislike to the fact that his predecessor, whom he had beaten convincingly in 2021, was seeking re-election. So when President Edgar Lungu said he was coming back to politics, we saw a summary withdrawal of all his retirement benefits that include state security. Presently, Edgar Lungu is the only reported former African leader without any state security or any retirement benefits. He fends for himself. He's got what he calls a ragtag security around his house and nothing from the state. And alas, that's when we saw a private citizen petition the highest court, the apex, the summit of all courts, mother of all courts in Zambia, called the Constitution Court, asking them to reopen the matter on whether he qualified to run for president in 2021 and whether he qualified to seek re-election in 2026. Remember, Madam, Zambia is a constitutional democracy which gives each person, or rather each president, after they win elections, a 2 5-year term.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody was held at tentacles. It was a legal cliffhanger, and people were wondering what the Constitution Court would do, having adjudicated on the matter 4 times already and returned with the same decision that Edgar Lungu qualified in 2021 and he would qualify in 2026. But as things turn out, the Constitution Court, and I must hasten here to say that the Constitution Court is now a newly constituted Constitution Court.
Okay.
I say newly constituted because there are 3 Constitutional Court judges that have been technically knocked out or disqualified, or in plain English, removed. These 3 Constitutional Court judges presided over a petition by the 7th president of Zambia in 2016. In 2016, President Hakainde Hichilema, after losing an election, prayed to the Constitution Court that he was not happy over the election of President Edgar Lungu. He wanted it nullified. But after sitting within a stipulated 2 weeks, 3 constitution judges out of the entire bench, who were in the majority, ruled that the matter was out of time and Edgar Lungu had qualified to be the next president. So they ruled against the desire of President Hakainde Hichilema. We don't know whether there is any relationship to the matter in which they were removed, but recently, in the last 1 to 2 months, there was a complaint against the 3 judges that ruled against the petition of President Hakainde Hichilema.
Sorry, I just want to interject you a little bit here. I've been listening to how you're explaining this, and it's amazing because it really gives our listeners a clear picture of the deep root and where all this is coming from. But there's something that you mentioned, that former President Edgar Lungu is the only African leader, I think, former president who's got no security, like he's not being treated as a former president. I mean, there has to come with allowances and all. And just to ask you on that. So could this be like a personal issue between himself and the current president, Hakainde Hichilema?
It is hard to say. Apparently, there is a constitutional clause in Zambia that says if a former president decides to return to active politics, then he summarily loses all his benefits. It has not been seen to have been used that much, but according to analysts, it appears as if it is almost being weaponized right now because of the frosty relationship the current president has with his predecessor and political arch rival and nemesis, Edgar Lungu. The situation, or rather the relationship, has been so frosty that even attempts for the former president to try and keep fit, jog, health runs outside his house or walk around, or even seeking medical attention abroad at his own expense have been denied. Hence the reason some analysts have said that there seems to be some kind of personal tiff or gripe between the two presidents. The current president has denied any hand in that, and his predecessor has actually said he feels that he's under virtual house arrest. He has said that publicly to the media, both local and international.
Now that you're saying the current president, Hakainde Hichilema, says he's got no hand in this, right? Many of us would be wondering, then who is giving this directive that former President Edgar Lungu should not go jogging, should not travel for healthcare, should not meet people, should just be like inside his premises? Who's giving this particular directives then?
You know, this is the question. This is the dilemma. This is the $1 million question that many analysts and pundits are asking. Because in Zambia, like in several other African countries, the president is an all-powerful man, probably even more powerful than a king. He is the commander-in-chief of all armed forces, meaning he's in charge of the Air Force, he's in charge of the Army, he's in charge of the police, the Inspector General of Police, that check on your movements to and from. He is in charge of the Chief Justice, he's in charge of the Speaker of the National Assembly. Hell, he is in charge of everything. So when the presidency says that it is not responsible for restricting the movements or taking away the benefits of the only living former head of state in Zambia. Remember, we've had 7 presidents, including the current one. It baffles the mind. They just don't know. But then, you know, this is politics and this is governance. It is a kind of thing where you don't know. Sometimes you are left to guess. But President Lungu is on record himself believing that all the restrictions that he's having because the government has a hand in it.
And Glory, you are our reporter on ground. This is news that is trending on all social media platforms. What's been the reaction really on ground to this court's ruling that stops former President Lungu from running in 2026 elections?
Yeah, it goes without saying that this development has immediately sparked such heightened debate, which has continued to grow and is not likely to die anytime. So the reactions are twofold between supporters of the current administration and those that are linked to the former President Edgar Lungu. So those that sympathize with the incumbent are obviously very happy, with most making public statements to the effect that this is a landmark decision which is very sound and underscores the importance of upholding constitutional mandates in the democratic process. Support the president, on the other hand, feel this is a political judgment meant to protect the incumbent from stiff competition come 2026, saying the current leadership has failed to fulfill pre-election promises and may have lost popularity. So what they are doing is to increase their chances of retaining their seat.
Now, President Hakainde Hichilema, I mean, from what we are reading, must be cheering that his main rival is out of the way. Well, these are most of the comments on social media platforms that people are saying, but you can maybe correct us on this or give us your opinion on what is happening or what people are saying. But is there a Zambian politician who can take on him right now?
So, for starters, I haven't seen him react publicly. To the contrary, he somewhat seems to be very nonchalant. I don't know if he's playing any mind games or anything, but his Minister of Information spoke on his behalf, dismissing those allegations, and also that Hichilema had a hand in the judgment, being the appointing authority of the judges. And so that before this judgment, a few months ago, he dismissed 3 judges that seemed to have been in alignment to Lungu, according to some of his supporters. And so people were saying, oh, he has an invisible hand in it. Now, with Lungu out of the picture, if things remain as they are, there's still some other options, not as strong as he is, but you see politicians such as the Socialist Party, Citizens First President, who have been gaining traction in recent months. And also Lungu has created some alliances and pacts with other political parties. So when or if he knows that he cannot go any further from here, I think he's capable of endorsing a candidate of his choice and taking his supporters to that candidate. He also mentions that he has launched Plan B. He accepted the results of this court case, but he said it's not the end. He says he has launched Plan B. So we are yet to see what this plan is and what it will bring.
And Anthony, just hearing from Glory now, what could this Plan B be? Is there still room for former President Lungu to appeal, or what do you think is in his bag? Which chess card is he going to play here?
President Lungu is an understated man. He has been, understated by many people in the past, and he has always come back swinging when the least expect. So, for instance, the main newspapers today, except for one, all the newspapers, all the mainstream and tabloids are leading with the story of Edgar Lungu saying, "It's not over until the fat lady sings." Forgive my, analog there.
Absolutely.
But he's saying there is no retreat, no surrender. When everybody was expecting that the biggest headlines in the newspapers today was Lungu barred, sealed, and dead, he came back fighting once again that despite having accepted, he has only accepted the judgment with what he calls resolve. I have accepted, not with resignation, not with grim resignation, but with resolve, this judgment by the Constitutional Court. And I am coming back since the Constitutional Court has shown that there is no bottom to the well to which you can enter and re-enter its doors. The constitutional judges have opened a door that whatever decision they have made is not final. Therefore, I am coming back with a counter petition. He has already on record directed his lawyers, led by a very exuberant lawyer called Makebi Zulu, to reopen this matter, and he has vowed to fight it to the end. Whether the Constitutional Court will agree to hear his case or not is another issue. But he has already thrown the gauntlet right back at the Constitutional Court, saying, since you made decisions 4 times that I qualify, and you have said in your final judgment, we hope was the final judgment, but clearly is no longer a final judgment, that I did qualify to run for 2021, even though there was a mistake according to the court's own decision. I do not qualify for 2026, despite looking at the mistake that allowed me to run in 2021. I am coming back. I am knocking on your door, and I want you to legally open it and hear that I am coming back. So the honeymoon has ended, in my view, as fast as it had started. Hence, we have seen the chief government spokesperson saying he should respect the judgment. We have seen the attorney general saying he should respect the judgment. We have seen the solicitor general saying he should respect the judgment. And he has said, I have not disrespected the judgment. I have accepted the judgment with resolve. All I am saying is that I am coming back because we thought there was a finality, but there is no finality. And since you have shown that the diplomatic and legal decorum cannot be followed, this is what is happening. So in my view, this matter has just begun. It's going to be a long Christmas, and we don't know what the new year holds. But
Right.
this is the beginning of the end, in my view, as a political analyst and a just commentator who is watching the way things run around here.
And what does this ruling really say about the independence of Zambia's judiciary? Anthony, is it fair to describe what happened as the weaponization of the justice system?
If you ask me, and I am looking at this matter not as a qualified lawyer, but as a person who has been in the legal fraternity, reading these judgments very deeply, it has all the color and complexion. And I wrote about it in one of my columns. I have a weekly column in the largest daily newspaper, private newspaper called the Daily Nation, where I say some of these things appear as if you are doing something over and over, hoping to get a different result. It appears as if there is lawfare at play, what one would call in legalese weaponizing the law to try and suppress your perceived or real political enemies. Because look at it this way. The matter has been settled 4 times by law, what is called res judicata. In Zambia, we have now all become, lawyers. Res judicata, I thought it was something that you spray on vegetables in a garden to stop them from rotting. But apparently, it means that this matter has been settled by law. It cannot be revisited. So 4 times the matter was rested by the same constitutional court, even though with different faces on the bench. And the 5th time it comes back. What do you get? Do you need a science degree, a rocket science degree, to see that somebody is probably looking for a different outcome? To me, it appears as if the current status quo was looking for a different outcome, an outcome that would stop Edgar Lungu from recontesting re-election in 2026, because the first 4 outcomes said he did duly qualify. So looking at that, backdrop, it appears to me, and as it has appeared to several other people, that this could have been a deliberate attempt to stop the 6th president from running, despite the fact that President Hakainde Hichilema beat President Lungu with a huge margin of more than 2 million voters in 2021. But like Glory was saying, the dynamics seem to have changed. When President Hakainde Hichilema beat President Edgar Lungu, there were huge perceptions and the conceptions or misconceptions of corruption. And President Hakainde Hichilema had promised the moon, the stars, including Mars and Jupiter. The prices of millimil, which were at about 100 kwacha, I don't know how much that is in euros. The current president said he would bring that price down to less than 50 kwacha. The prices of a liter of petrol, which was buying for a liter at about 17 kwacha, is now at about 33 kwacha per liter. The president had promised that he would bring it to much lower than that. The prices of fertilizer, and I could go on, everything seems to have doubled. So it is a feeling and a thought of many analysts that the president has seen a dwindling in his fortunes. Hence the reason he could, maybe subtly or without knowing, wanting to stop his only major existing nemesis from coming back on the ballot paper. But let me borrow again, as I step out here, let me borrow again from Glory, that the fortunes of the 6th president, the main rival of the current president, have not completely dwindled. In fact, when you hear him talk, when he holds his press conferences or when he writes on his page, he seems to have been bioed. He seems to have gotten suddenly some sort of, Damascus moment where he feels that he can win now more than, he is stronger than now than he was 3 years ago due to the increased costs in the cost of living. The latest statistics show that more than 50% of Zambians are now living in abject poverty. There is double-digit inflation. There is stagnation in economic growth and the prices of groceries. People are coming out with less and less groceries out of a shopping mall, out of a grocery store. They're getting less groceries than they were getting 3 years ago. Hence the reason they feel that there appears to be a bit of a weaponization of the law in order to stop the main rival. Otherwise, how do you explain a constitutional court, the highest court in the land, returning to overturn its decision? 4 times it said that you qualify, and then on the 5th time you say you do not qualify. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, like I said earlier on, but it's marks of suspicion, if you ask me. And I am not as intelligent as you are, but I feel that some.
What a compliment, actually. You know you're intelligent. DW correspondent in Lusaka, Glory Mushinge, and Anthony Mukwita, analyst, political and social scientist, former Zambian ambassador to Germany, author, and also a former journalist. Many thanks for joining us. At the Africa Link podcast, we always look across the continent to see how the stories and issues we are dealing with play out or at times even overlap. Looking across the continent, South Africa's constitutional court exemplifies judicial independence. Established in 1994 after the end of the apartheid in South Africa, the court has made landmark rulings, including legalizing same-sex marriage in 2005 and criticizing the government for failing to arrest Sudan's Omar al-Bashir in 2015. Mind you, the judges at the top court are appointed by the president. These examples show how courts can uphold human rights and accountability, offering lessons to other African nations on how to navigate political and constitutional tensions. That's it for this edition of Africa Link. This podcast was co-produced and edited by Crispin Mwakideo. My name is Josey Mahachi. Bye for now.